Hello, welcome to Bentley Auckland. I say welcome, this is a goodbye. This is the Mulsanne 675 edition by Mulliner. This is a goodbye. And to help me bid farewell, I'd like to welcome Derek Bennett, Brand Manager, Bentley Auckland. Derek, thank you. I know you're always happy to be here. We're happy to talk to you, but you're a bit sad about this.
I am sad about this car going. I mean, I have been selling them since they came out, since they were first launched and replaced the Enage. And they have a very long history, these cars. I mean, you have
a big soft spot for these.
I have an enormous soft spot for these cars, and just the way they drive, the height, the way you feel when you're driving them is something really quite extraordinary, to use a Bentley.
The simple fact, they are as Bentley as a Bentley gets.
They are. They were designed from the ground up at Crewe. There's a huge amount of man hours goes into making each one of these. I mean, this particular car, when you look at not only the Mulliner content, but the duotone, you're talking probably 650 man hours of assembly time, excluding the build-up time.
Well, so let's put that in perspective, because we hear about mass production nowadays, cars being turned out, measured, I guess, in minutes per unit. Say at Bentayga, which is a hand-built car, I think it takes about 130 hours, and that's for 53 artisans to build it.
That's right.
So the time that goes into this is something incredible.
It is something incredible. You said, you talked about mass production. In fact, when this car first came out, Bentley's marketing slogan was the opposite of mass production. And these cars really are the opposite of mass production. They're built in tiny numbers. There's very few of them in New Zealand, I think about 25. And these last 30 for the world.
That's global.
Globally, these last 30, which are obviously now all built, this one and one other one, which is in full black, are part of those last 30. So these are 675 editions, they're special edition cars.
So there's 30 in the world, 2 you've secured for New Zealand. Now let's talk about 675, because it's not just the Mulsanne that's being farewelled, it's this engine.
That's right.
It's the longest running V8 engine pretty much in the history of the world, production-wise.
It is, yeah. So this engine came out around about the 1950s, sort of mid-1950s, I think 1953, something like that. And it has been going in this car, or in the Bentley range, all the way through until now, except with a small gap where they actually did drop the engine for about a year and a half. But Bentley owners said that the engine that replaced it didn't give the characteristics that they want.
It didn't feel Bentley.
Power in reserve is what this car is all about. And actually, let me.
Please do, because this engine, it existed before rock and roll, and it outlasted disco. A remarkable piece of engineering too, Derek, because we talk about the age of it, and I can find this one. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
But this is quite modern under here too.
It is, because whilst the engine did start a long time ago, it still has cylinder deactivation. I believe it was one of the first cars in the market to have cylinder deactivation. So on the motorway, it runs on 4 cylinders. And then you look at this 675 edition treatment with this beautiful engine badge here, a new cover over the top here, the signature hand-built in Crewe. I mean, it really is extraordinary. Even the quilting, look at this.
Yes, and take note of this oil cover, the cap. I want you to remember that. We'll show you something on the inside of the car. Now, you talk about the power, but it's about torque, which is the grunt we talk about with V8s. 1,100 Newton meters, which is about 3.5 Golf GTIs.
Yeah, it is. And the characteristic of a Mulsanne should be that it's very low revving. It shouldn't be a sort of thrashy, busy engine, and that was the issue they found with the, when they had a small gap in production years ago. The engine was too busy. So the car should just be idling along, 2,500 RPM, and have that wave of torque in reserve. And that's what this engine does so beautifully.
And of course, what's happened now, of course, the Flying Spur will sort of take over from the Mulsanne. We've got the incredible W12
that's right.
And the new V8. So they're sort of going forward. But right now, we are saying goodbye to something very special.
We are.
Can we jump inside? Because
Absolutely.
This car is something else. Come and look at this. You hop inside the Mulsanne and you seriously don't know where to look. There's so many details, and Derek's been talking about hidden delights, but more on that in a moment. I'm going to start with these, the organ stops for the air vent controls. Normally they're just beautifully smooth, but I mentioned the oil cap. Look at that, just for this car. Beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Everywhere's beautiful.
That's right.
And I love the detail. I want to talk about these gauges, because initially I thought, what's going on? Is that some sort of marble pattern?
Yeah, so
But it's not.
no, these gauges here were done especially for the 675, and they have the blueprint of the 675 litre engine mapped onto the faces of the clocks. So at night time you get an illumination of the original blueprints of that engine.
But that's the thing, and can we do hidden delights now?
Yes, you
Because
can. Hidden delights. So basically, on the inside of things like this tray here for your phone, or under the armrest here where I've got the key at the moment, inside you have this silver finish. And Bentley Bentley Mulliner can finish the inside of glove boxes or door pockets and things like that in special colours, and they call that hidden delights. Little surprises, basically.
it's old and new because it does feel like a classic Bentley, but there's so much new tech here. I suppose the interesting thing with the Bentley is logically would sit in the back. Those seats look so inviting, but that's not the way with the Mulsanne, is it?
No. The vast majority of people drive their Mulsannes, and in fact in New Zealand I think I know of maybe one customer who has a driver. Everyone else loves to drive them, and I mean, they are so different. They're so different to drive that you would just want to be behind the wheel of this car.
You talked about the craftsmanship. I'm looking at the trim on that
That's right.
door there, and the steering wheel. You can see the effort that's gone into this car, and you can see why you love.
That's right. And I mean,
with them.
one other interesting thing is, I mean, if you look at this wooden steering wheel, which is lovely, you can drive with one finger like that.
We don't recommend that, please.
No, but you can turn the wheel with your fingertips, but with all the latest technology coming now, they can't put the sensors into the wooden wheels. So things like full wooden steering wheels may actually be a thing of the past, and they really are a thing to behold, and they're lovely to drive with.
That's the thing with this, Derek. With cars, you often want to talk about what's new. It's always about the latest and greatest. But I don't think there's any shame in talking about the past in this car, because this is a tribute to a bygone era, because the time it takes to build and so many of the aspects of this car are just not part of these current times.
That's right. And I think, if you look at how long a Mulsanne is going to be on the road for, it could be 50, 60, 70 years. I mean, these cars are not disposable, and if you go back to that original opposite of mass production, these cars, the thought that goes into these cars is that they will be on the road for many, many years to come. And actually, when you look at what you've got here, you've got a beautifully coach-built car, you've got a sat-nav, you've got your sat-nav here, you've got your adaptive cruise control, but technology-wise, you've got everything you could really want, but what it has in bucket loads is a sense of occasion. It's how you feel when you drive this car, and when you see that flying bee at the front and you're out on the motorway, it is just exquisite.
And that black bee is special for this car as well.
That's right, the black bee is for this car, and that beautiful strip that goes down the bonnet. I mean,
that's old school.
That is old school, and when you're driving it and you can see the front of it, boy, do you feel special.
And that's, I suppose, what this car is all about. It is very special and super limited. You talk about the age, because I think, a few weeks ago we talked about the Pikes Peak Edition Continental GT,
right.
And you commented about so many of the parts on that car, like the brake calipers, have to look like that for 50 or more years. That's what Bentley are thinking about.
That's right.
I guess with this we've got proof that things last a long time.
Yeah, they will last a long time. And I mean, even if you look at this, see the metal, things like that, what makes a Mulsanne. It's the fit, the finish, the way everything is put together. I mean, one other thing I absolutely love about this car, and I'm really going to miss, I know it's a silly thing, but it has what they're called inverted dials.
Yeah.
So inverted dials were on the very, very early Bentleys, around about 1930s. So where the speedometer would start at 1 o'clock and then it would travel downwards. And both the speedo and the rev counter here start at 1 o'clock on the dial. So when you're driving, it just feels different, and that's what I love about it.
Look, I know people will focus on the front seat. Can we look at the back? Because there's a couple of cool things that comes with this car. Look, I have no doubt that driving this car is a buzz, but mate, being in the back is great. The back seats are raised slightly. Look at the picnic table in the back. That is so classic Bentley.
It is, and just look at the action of it as well.
But even here beside us, this middle cushion folds back, and
That's right.
This is a bit Thunderbirds.
It is a bit Thunderbirds, and even these lights here, they're very Art Deco. There was quite an Art Deco theme going on in the Mulsanne. And even if you look up even these wonderful mirrors here, which I love, and if you want to look a bit younger,
Yep.
have a look in this mirror. because they have incandescent light bulbs. And that was something that Dr. Pefkin insisted on when this car first came out.
Why?
Well, because incandescent light is kinder on the skin than LED.
I'll take all I can get, mate. Fantastic. I love that. And speaking of hidden delights, if we pull down this, there's a nice sort of glass door, but there's more. There's more, like they're saying. Oh my goodness.
There you go. So inside here, you have these beautiful tumblers.
This is a chilled area, so you can
chilled area. It's very cold
in there.
Yeah, you can have water in there or something else, whatever you like. And that is your beautiful tumbler there. And underneath with the B, plus you've got the wheel design in there as well.
Brilliant. It's such a
look at the feel of weight.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Everything in this car is substantial, and I just wanted to pull out one other thing, which is the
we've smudged the glasses.
Yeah, let's put them back. We can deal with that. Even here, what we call the ash can for cigars, but really we put coins in them now. But just little things like there's no part number. You know, it's crafted. It's not something that's done in mass production. And again, feel the weight of that.
Goodness me.
It's wonderful.
It's like holding a cricket ball. That's the weight of it. That is just brilliant. And look, I know you said driving these things is great, but mate, sitting in the back of this is really special. I want to be taken to the premiere right now.
Yeah, no.
If we still had premieres right now.
If we still have premieres. Look, I think if you did own a car like this and someone was to take you out in the evening or you had a driver for the night, then great. But I still fundamentally believe the Mulsanne Speed is a real driver's car because it's so different. It's not a driver's sports car, it's something else. It's if you go back to Bentley's build a fast car, a great car, the best in its class, I think that fits the brief beautifully.
Since this is a farewell, there's only 2 of these in New Zealand. I think we need a bit of a salute. Could you give us an 8-cylinder salute to finish, please?
Shall I start it up?
I want to hear it. It's so smooth, Derek.
It is. Yeah.
I can just hear that faint sort of V8 burble, but it's, you know, normally I'd say give it a rev, but that's uncouth.
No.
We won't do that.
No, we don't need to do that. The thing I love about this car is it's so different. The sound is so different. Not only at idle, but out on the motorway. You won't find another car now that has this feeling of character. It's just so different. And
never before has a twin turbo V8 had the ability to sound so reserved yet be so damned powerful. Thank you for letting us hear that sound. Really is the last of a breed, this car. Only 2 in New Zealand. You talk about the time that's gone into it and all the work, the lack of part numbers and all that. This, in so many ways, is a blast from the past for today, but it's not some sort of pastiche and tribute. It is exactly what it is.
It is. I think, you know, it's important to remember cars like this, the older they get, the more looked after they become. So if you look at cars like a Nage, even go back to Brooklands and things like that, people are now looking at those thinking, I want to own one of those. And those last owners will join the clubs and things like that. And I think that's something that will remain special to these cars, that the older they get, the more cherished they become.
You know, I was lucky enough last year to go along to the centenary celebrations and meet some of the owners of these cars, and you see how much they're loved. So I know exactly what you're saying.
That's right. And a huge amount of love has gone into these cars by the guys at Bentley Motors, and I think I would like to say a big thank you to the guys there that have built these cars over the years. I've been to the factory many times. I see what goes into them. I know that the build hall now, where this car is made, is clear, but there's a huge amount of work with that existing team going into building a whole new car that we really don't know much about, but there's some really exciting projects on the go.
If I had to sum up this, I could do it in one word. Could you know what this car is?
What is it?
A Bentley.
It is.